Good evening, friends and family, and thank you for coming to another night with Repair, Restore, and Grow Black Communities Behind Black Business. And tonight we have um, a very special person in our community, Brother Sekou, the founder of Frontline Books. Sekou is very knowledgeable. Sekou has an online bookstore, and they are our bookstore of the month. And I have asked him to come on tonight because of his level of knowledge to talk about an important topic. And it evolves around how the corporate conglomerates, how white supremacy destroys cultures and for their economic gain. And this is something that we're impacted by on a daily basis in this country and abroad. It's a subject that is very important. And to help us understand what's happening in terms of our businesses and what's happening with our communities, especially the dismantling of the communities here, Black communities here in Chicago. So, Sekou, I want to thank you for coming on tonight and
Mhm.
being able to talk to us about this particular subject matter. Thank you so much.
But thanks for having me, Denise. It's always a pleasure to be on your program and disseminate information in relation to what is taking place globally and in our communities nationwide. So
Abs-
yeah. So the
Absolutely. So,
yes.
So before we get started, I
Hmm.
do want to say, as you know, we're a nonprofit organization, and we are working to our mission is to enhance the awareness and support of Black businesses because your businesses in your community have the ability to circulate dollars, bring the investment of the profits that they receive from the money that you're spending out of your pocket every day back to the community. And when you're constantly taking dollars out, it's impossible for a community to thrive, which is why we see a tale of two cities right here in Chicago. And so we want you to look at our Black businesses. I want you to look for Black businesses and make it a part of your consciousness and your mission to support Black businesses here in Chicago. And so we feature a Black business on our podcast every week. This is something that we do. And we feature our bookstores. And as I mentioned earlier, Brother Sekou has Frontline bookstores. You can go to dfrontline.com, where he has a website with a plethora of very important reads. And we give a book away every month. And Brother Sekou recommended the autobiography of Emperor Haile Selassie, My Life and Ethiopia's
No,
Progress.
no. This month I want to recommend Denise. I want to recommend the philosophy and opinion of Marcus Garvey. Since
Okay,
it's
so
Marcus
this
Garvey,
is this is this is
Marcus
the book.
Garvey birth month.
Okay, so that's will be for this month. This is the book that we have to get a winner from. We don't have a winner for this book yet. But this is
Okay.
the book that we will be giving away, and then for the next month, we can give the book away that you're recommending. But this is the one that you recommended previously, and this traces his birth through the trials of the Second Italo-Ethiopian War in 1937, detailing his upbringing, education, and early political ascension. And as we know, Ethiopia, um, he's one of the most influential leaders, and Ethiopia is the only African nation to have remained free from European dominance at that time. And so if you want to win a copy of this book, go to rrgbc.org and subscribe. We will pay for the book and the shipping as well. So that's for our book of the month. And then we're also asking you to please support the Southside Community Federal Credit Union, located at 55th and Garfield in the shopping center there. And they are continuing to offer more products for you in terms of personal loans, car loans, um, uh, loans in lieu of the payday loans where you wouldn't have such high interest rates, financial literacy classes, micro business loans. They're adding more and more products for you. And all you have to do is go to the Southside Community Federal Credit Union and become a member by opening up an account. So please support the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. And then we also want you to go to our website and sign our petition, and you would go to Save Black Bookstores Chicago at change.org. And this petition is where we're asking for support for our local Black bookstores. We want contracts from our local municipalities to support our Black bookstores. So please sign that petition. And you can also donate to our organization to help us continue to do the work that we're doing. Okay, so Brother Sekou, you were wanting to, regarding the subject matter that we want to talk about today. Um, as I mentioned, we're looking at the destruction of Black communities. I live here in Chicago, and I see a tale of two cities. I see the North Side booming with businesses. I see downtown booming with businesses. I see the near west side booming with businesses, and those areas are not inhabited any longer by the Black people who were living here in Chicago. You got people coming here from all over the world, and you got big buildings going up. It's just your head is turning around like an owl to look at all of the businesses that are over there. And then when you come to the south side and you come to the west side, you see very little in terms of businesses. And a lot of this is there's a history of racial violence against Black people, because we know we had Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Rosewood, and over 50 towns and counties ran Black people out of them, after the Civil War. So there's always been this racial violence against Black progression in this country. And I would like for you to speak to that issue first.
Okay, well, one of the things we must realize, as pointed out by you, we live in a society and a community where there's a division, right? There is there's a white Chicago and there's a black Chicago. There's a Latino Chicago and there's a black Chicago. So once we are aware of those things, we could be clear on why things are the way they are, economically, politically, socially, and so on. So when you look at this at Chicago, north, south, west, because basically the east is basically the lake. So you look at the north side, as pointed out, yes, you have striving businesses taking place. Most of our people north side, most of the people on the west side or on the south side of Chicago. And the south side of Chicago, the west side of Chicago, there is not a lot of infrastructure construction going on that that takes place in terms of the progress of our people, economic progress, social progress, schools being built, um, houses being built, businesses being built, real estate with our people in mind. And when I say our people in mind, I'm talking about middle class, middle income people, low income people. So these are not taken into consideration. Hence the reason you could go down to the loop and you will see a lot of businesses still happening. But you go to the north side, you see businesses happening. You come to the south side, you see a lot of businesses, buildings which are basically vacated. You see storefronts and the cost. One of the things we had to pay attention to is the cost of real estate. Now, the ideal thing when you're doing business, the ideal thing would be to own your own building, and therefore you pay a mortgage, or if you buy the building, um, cash, as the case might be, because you have money in the bank. But a lot of our people don't to borrow money from banks or lending institutions, as mentioned, the Southside Cooperative Credit Union. So these are some of the things we have ourselves have to change our mindset. We have to change our mindset instead of banking our monies in away from our people. We need to spend our money and bank our money with our people. One of the statistics that has been going on for years that is known is that African people in America, black people in America, black people living in Chicago and other urban black cities, our money stays in our community less than 6 hours, while other people, Koreans, Chinese, Europeans, etc., their money stays in their community at least 72 hours or more and circulate. So these are some of the things we have to consciously make an effort. How are we, with all the $6 trillion we spend every year in our community, $6 trillion African Americans spend across America every year. That's a lot of money by any standard. It's more money than the GDP of most third world countries and even developed countries to have to be able to spend $6 trillion. And when we look at what we have in our communities, we do not have much to show. Because one of the things we have to do is the question of how do we support our own businesses? How do we support black businesses? How do we spend our money with our community? How do we buy black? How do we make sure we save our monies in black institutions like the credit unions and so on? How do we invest our money in in black businesses? Example, right now we don't have how many grocery stores are available in our communities? How many um, what do you call produce stores we have in our community? And these are things that all we need because we have to eat food every day. We have to eat food every day, and we need to spend the money. That means we need to encourage black farmers to produce. We need to encourage black farmers to set up cooperatives in our communities at so they could sell to us at cheaper rates. These are some of the things that all fundamentally we have to look at. So my idea is not to look at the problem. We need to find solutions, and one of the solutions is we have to buy black. We have to support black. We have to save black. We have to spend black. And if we do that, then we could build another Wall Street. We could build another Black Wall Street, and so on. Because this is not something that is cannot be done. We have done it before, and we can do it again. So it's just a matter of cooperative economics, crowdfunding. This is the month of Marcus Garvey. This is the month that Marcus Garvey was born. This is the month that Garvey said August 31st we should celebrate as Black Independence Day. Now, if we want to follow in the path of someone like Marcus Garvey, who in the 1920s built one of the largest institutions in this country and the world have seen, Marcus Garvey as much as over 10 million people in his day in the 1920s. He was able to galvanize so many people that today we have social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. But we cannot galvanize 10 million people in our organization. Marcus Garvey thought about the organization. And I bring up Marcus Garvey. The main point to bring up with Marcus Garvey is to show you that in 1920, 1919, 1920, Marcus Garvey was able to buy a fleet of ships, right? And how he was able to do that? What we call crowdfunding. Marcus Garvey printed at least 200,000 shares for the Black Star Line shares, certificates. And he sold them for at least $5. So imagine 200,000 shares certificate sold at $5. In that time, 1919, 1920, that was a million USD, right? That he was able to raise among poor people. Poor people, they was able to contribute and buy a share certificate for $5. So that is how he was able to set up factories within the communities, right? The Marcus Garvey, the UNIA was able to set up factories. He was able to set up um, the ships. He was able to set up grocery stores across the United States and so on. So these are the formulas we need to follow because they were tested and tried and proven. So let's
Okay, let
use
me ask
that
a
as a
question.
yes.
I like to ask a question. So we have demonstrated, as you say, that we know how to, or we have in the past, pooled our resources and created industries, uh, created very successful and prosperous communities. We have done that. But then these issues in terms of the destruction, the way our communities have been destroyed, uh, looking at racial violence, looking at economic sabotage, looking at government policies, and looking at social exclusion. How do we protect ourselves against that? Because it's not in the best interest, obviously, of the big players, for us with all of this $1 trillion power that we have to be able to use it. There's always this force pushing back against that. So how do we? I would have two questions here, because all of this has happened, we've lost a lot of our sense of our culture, because a lot of our culture has been consumed, um, uh, like our music, and it becomes commodified. And so how do you get people together to do this one way, and with that in mind, And then on the other end, how do we protect it from these forces that we know are going to be coming against you? Because it's not in any of the other groups here interest for Black people to prosper, to progress. And I don't know
Well,
if
one of the
that's
first
something
things,
that Marcus Garvey had to deal with, I guess maybe to a certain extent at that time. But how would you compare what he did then to being able to do the same thing now?
well, one of the things we have to do is to be able to secure what we have. That means we have to be able to have our own security systems and put them in place, right? Marcus Garvey was able to create what they call the black um, military, right? Whether it was a show of force in terms of people coming down Harlem, marching across Harlem. We have what they call the Nation Day, or also in 1930, the Nation of Islam was founded by Elijah Poole, or no, then later to be called Elijah Muhammad, and he was given the directions by a man called um, Wallace Fard. However, if these are some of the basic principles, right, that we need to follow. We have to follow what we call the principle of do for self. We have to now move away from the micro perspective and take on the macro perspective, whereby we now do deal with one another as a collective. That means if we realize that when you support one business, black business in the community, therefore you are supporting yourself. When you support yourself, you are supporting the collective businesses in the community. And that is how we get strong. So what we have to do is we have to galvanize and secure our businesses, our business interests. They do it when they say they they have the what they call the police department, every city and every state in this Chicago as well. Who do they protect? The mark, you see the mark to protect and serve. Who they protect? They protect and serve what? They protect and serve the conglomerates. They protect and serve the business interests. When they don't protect and serve black business, right? They put interests of other business people because they were set up. The police department is an extension of what you call the from the plantocracy. When the same people would be the ones who would supervise riding on horses to protect the master interest. So if they have someone to protect their interests, therefore we should have security institutions that we should create, like the Nation of Islam have the Fruit of Islam. In the past, we had the Black Panther Party and so on. So we have to create institutions whereby we could protect our own interests in whatever way, by any means necessary. So these are some of the things we have to highlight. These are some of the things we have to look at because it makes no sense. You see in the past what happened in across um, America when we build up and so on. They come,
Mm-hmm.
they destroy them. So if you know from the past what happened, you now have to take steps to enforce and to secure our wealth in our community. If we're going to build wealth, we can't leave it for other people to come and destroy it. We must make sure that we could protect it, and we have institutions. We have to liaise with people like in the Nation of Islam. They have the Fruit of Islam. You have to create your own security systems whereby we could protect our own interests in our own community, right? We can't expect the police department to protect your interests. You can't. You have to create your own institutions, your own forces that can protect your interests within your community, because it's like where these institutions came from, right? Department it was not. Yes, they say to protect and serve, but they're not there to serve the poor man. They're not there for all business, black businesses. They're there to protect and serve the bourgeois businesses, the comprador businesses. That is who they are there to protect. So
And you
have to
know,
create our we have to create our own security system to secure our own institutions.
Sekou, we were able to see this during COVID when all of the looting was going on throughout the city. And some people were asking for the mayor to bring in the National Guard, and she was refusing to do it. But then it continued to escalate, and she brought in the National Guard. But the National Guard only covered from Roosevelt south to, I believe, Wells Street north, and then from Halsted to the east to the Lakeshore Drive. And the rest of the city was left to deal with whatever was happening. So it is a broader campaign that seems to impact, especially our communities. These not little isolated incidents. And so I do agree with you. We do need to have some protection in place. And we do need to have some understanding as to how important it is that we support our own. And in supporting our own, having a vision for what it is that we want and how and being able to protect it and being able to protect it, in different ways. Just having a commitment to support Black businesses would be a form of protection. Um, I also feel that reparations is a way of protecting, some form of protection for Black people. I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel that reparations is a conversation that should be put on the table for that.
Well, I think reparation is a very important thing um, for Black America, for African American, um, the people who were brought here and who were founded, who were here for hundreds of years, long before the Mayflower landed on Plymouth. The people here need to get some kind of compensation. You cannot have justice if you do not have compensation for the wrong that was done to you, right? So you have to have some kind of compensation, and that compensation we call it reparation. But remember, they're not gonna just give you reparation as easy as they give the Japanese. They're not gonna give reparation as easy as they give the people from the Jewish Holocaust. They're not gonna just give you reparation like that. You have to fight for it. Remember, Jackson. They promised to give Black America, African America, after 1865. They had promised to give what? They had promised to give each foundational Black America, each foundational African America. They had promised to give them what? 40 acres and a mule,
Hmm.
right? They went back on their word after Lincoln died, and they decided that they was not going to do it. Which I think was the president at the time was Jackson, right? So So we got to take in that into consideration to know that black people, whether it's in North America or wherever, do not get anything easy. So you have to know how do you organize that. The cities and states, they're not prepared to give you a step up so you could catch up with society. In fact, what they're doing now is eroding some of these fundamental things that we've been asking for. Some of the rights that was won in the civil rights movement. Um, the whole question of even the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Some of these things and the right to education and all these different things. Some of these things have been eradicated right as we speak.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So what is fundamental? Yes, we need black people who were born here, who family line goes back to 300 and 400 years ago, and they give their great grandparents and great great grandparents give free labor to build this country, to build the railroads, to build the tunnels, to build the different institutions in this country, right? They say people say African American black people here are lazy, but if black people were lazy, how how the whole of America, right? The roads, how was these roads built? How was these factories built? If black people were lazy, black people were never lazy. Black people work for free for over 250 years and then get a dime. Something that has to be advanced continuously, especially by those who are born here, who live here, whose foreparents who were the foundational here, and some of the people who were here, the native people, they were here with the native people. Um, you know, what do you call? Some of these people were here hundreds of years, right? When
Oh, yeah.
Columbus in his diary said when he arrived in Haiti, there were black people there, right? When he arrived in Cuba, he saw mosques and masjids there, right? So you have Mansa Musa brother, um, who vacated the throne in Mali so he could rule. He came to North America here over 500 to 700 years prior to the Columbus sailing here. So we must know that. We must know that Ramses III, which we call father of ancient America, he came with an expedition here over 3,000 years ago, before Columbus. Um, right, and Columbus actually never arrived in North America.
Mm-hmm.
Columbus never arrived in North America. He landed in places like El Salvador and so on. He came to Haiti. He came to Cuba, but he never landed in what we know as North America. So these are things that are very important to know. So yes, the black people have to rally themselves, have to galvanize themselves, those and know that they have to fight. They have communities here in Chicago, outside of Chicago, for the rightful reparation that their grandparents and great grandparents worked for free, and they need to ask for their back pay now.
Also, we look at things like urban renewal, these urban renewal projects that come up, and how they have also uh, decimated our communities. And a lot of times we see the mayor and everyone with the ribbon cutting on the news because this new development is coming to the community. This is another way often of decimating the community, like when they built the Dan Ryan Expressway, um, when they created a lot of commercial development in the old Bronzeville, the Bronzeville area, bringing in Prairie Shores, IIT. These were all supposed to be enhancing the development in our communities, but they actually destroy our communities. So I'm making this statement because there are policies that they're voting on every day that we need to be aware of, and the impact that they're going to have on our communities, which is how our communities in other ways have also been decimated with these different policies. And right now, um, they're voting on policies here in Chicago,
mm,
in down in Springfield, and in Congress, and the media's, to me, is distracting a lot of people with taunts against Donald Trump,
mm,
and Meghan Markle, and the royals are all in the media now. So people
mm,
are
mm,
distracted by all these things, while all of these different policies are being voted on, where the dollars and the resources are going to, and they don't come our way. You mentioned earlier about Black businesses being able to get loans, and resources. And this has just been a continuous systemic problem
mm,
where Black people are not able to get the loans that these people have gotten, obviously, to open up all these businesses up when you look at the north
mm,
side of Chicago.
mm,
Uh, they're not able, even yourself, in terms of dealing with
mm,
Frontline in Hyde Park and trying to get resources that you
mm.
needed. This is systemic.
Well, one
And
of the things that I have realized, one of the things I have realized is we have been looking outside of ourselves for too long. We need to look inside. So we need to
mhm,
follow the principle of cooperative economics. When it comes to the month of Kwanzaa, we talk about Ujama. We talk about cooperative economics. So one of the main things we need to do, instead of looking outside for the those on the outside, white institution, um, and these multinationals to support us, we need to rally ourselves. We need to build, as you talk about the Southside Cooperative. We need to
mhm,
credit union and so on. We need to build our own credit union. If example, I draw reference to Marcus Garvey, right? And being able to sell 200,000 share certificates, which were at $5, which was like $1 million at that time in 1920, equate what that might be today in dollars and cents. So if we as African American, if we as Black Americans, if we as Black people living in America, if we pool our monies together and start to trust one another and build our own institution, but we need to build across the south side, across the west side, across if we are in the north side, wherever we are, start building credit unions, cooperatives, and so on, and put our money in there. So rather than you putting the money in the banks, build credit unions, start having town hall meetings where our people could now come together, know who, look for the righteous people, look for honest people, and so they could put. We have accountants, we have economists, we have planners, Black planners, we have all these people, we have everything in our communities. But so we could
mhm,
we could find them, and when you find them, then you give them the responsibility. Build a Southside cooperative, build a Southside credit union, build a Westside credit union, build a Northside credit union that is yours. You could pool your money. If everyone every month, if 20,000 people pool together $5, that is 100,000. We could build, we could rent. If we don't want to, if we can't buy immediately, we could set up grocery stores. We could buy our food, encourage the Black farmers to grow food. We buy the food at a cheap price and we sell back to our communities. When we look around, we see stores, the hairs and nails, and that's not totally not important for us. Those who want to get their nails and hair done, nothing wrong with that. But we could pool our money together. We have vacant lots, vacant spaces. Some of the lots are vacant. We could lease them from the city, and we could plant food. We could this food could be taken and sell at a more reasonable price to the members of the cooperative. The same thing we could do in terms of pooling our resources together and being to buy houses, redo them, and rent them out at a reasonable price. We don't have to follow the market rates. We could buy these houses, rent them out at a cheaper price, bring the price down, make um, housing available, affordable to our community. We can if we don't have to wait on what the mayor doing or what the alderman doing. We can do it ourselves.
That's
What
right.
we say what you call do for self
And I
reliance.
think this is a prime time to think entrepreneurial, to think about opening up businesses and think about doing for yourself at a time when the country is not, giving people money and giving doing all of these things that people have been accustomed to them doing. And then understand
When we don't
and
need
then
their money, we
understanding
don't
in
need their
in
money.
doing that and accepting this money, it has not benefited our community. It has made people.
When we don't need their money, because when you take
That's
money from
right.
the system, they dictate to you how do you
That's
must
right.
spend that money. If you go to the bank or you apply for a grant or you apply for a loan, you ask them for $50,000. They tell you they only could give you
That's right.
$10,000. So initially they are setting you
That's
up for
right.
failure.
Because they're going to charge you a high interest
They are
rate
setting you
for
up for
that.
failure, right? But we could build if we put more money, as you say, rightfully into cooperatives, rightfully into credit unions, and so on. We have always been a
Hmm.
collective people, right? As black people, whether we are in the motherland in Africa, whether we're in the Caribbean, wherever we have always been a people that are collectively right. We didn't we as we said in the past when the natives came here, when the people came here, the people the Europeans came from wherever they came from Europe and so on. They met millions of people here, right? They
That's right.
and land was not owned by no one. Land was collectively what a corporate was owned by the people. Land was owned by the people. Then what? Europeans came with a grab and they said they teach us to pray. One of the first things they did, they give us the Bible. And if all those things are what you call what? They are all controlled. They are all
That's right.
programmed. So once we have one of the things we have to do, we have to deprogram ourselves. We have to deprogram ourselves whereby we must be able to say we must buy. We have to start spend saving money. We have to start investing money. We spend money on what we think is so important that it's not important. When wearing a Gucci shoe or Gucci bag or all these different things, we are making these people who don't like us more richer every day. Yet we complain. We complain. We spend money with these people, and yet we complain. We need to spend our money, stay in our communities for a longer period of time. If they could keep their money in the community for 72 hours and we could only keep our money for 6 hours, something is wrong with that picture,
Hmm.
right? You don't have to be some kind of scientist to know that. Something is wrong with that picture. If we spend every year annual of $6 trillion in our community in our North America here, African American people, which only make up 13% of the population. Our population, we make up only 13% of this population here, right? We only have probably approximately 45 to 50 million people out of our population of probably approximately 335, 340 million people. So tell me, something is wrong. So we have to correct that wrong. So we have to stop pointing fingers. We have to stop looking for handouts, and we need to start to do that Marcus Garvey say, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say, let us pool our money together and build our own institution. Let us pool our money together and build grocery stores. And we when we have our own grocery stores, we could sell the items cheaper than when we go to places like Joel and all these different places, Costco and all these places. We can do the same.
Mm-hmm.
They can't be, they're not smarter and more brilliant than us. We're the ones who create mathematics. We're the ones who create medicine. So how come they what? They're more intelligent than us? I don't think
Right.
so.
That's right. And we can have a lot of small businesses. We don't have to, I think too often we think that we need high end or we have to have a big store, but we could have many small stores, many small businesses that can provide us with our needs. Because when you look at Walmarts and your Targets, jewels, they're nothing but a multiplicity of small businesses under one roof. That's what they are.
Well, remember that most businesses start off as mom and pop stores, right?
Mm-hmm.
Woolwood, for what you know of it, Woolwood didn't start off as a big store, right? It started off as a mom and pop store, right? Where was the mother and the father who was running that store? Whether the one worked during the day and the other run the store during the day, and while one worked and so on. But it started off as a mom and pop store. When I was growing up, the Chinese in the Caribbean, they had the stores in the community. The children go to school in the community. But when they came home, they came and did their homework. They didn't go out and play like the other youths. They came and they helped their mother and their father to run the stores. So we must prepare our children. We must prepare our children. That means why our children are the way they are now is because they are ill prepared. We did not prepare them. And maybe because we ourselves were not prepared. So if so it becomes a cycle, a
Right.
continuous cycle, right? So what we need to do, we need to prepare our young people to take over. And we have to prepare our young people to be able to do business, right? We can do it. I remember when we used to say the Chinaman didn't have a Chinaman chance. If you cut a Chinaman with a wet paper, if you touch a Chinaman with wet paper, he may get cut. He didn't stand a chance. But we can't see that today. We got Chan Strong, the Chinese man, also went into business from 1949 to now. China now is the second largest country. The GDP is approximately over 16 to 18 trillion dollars, right? So in a minute, they would catch up with the United States, which GDP
Mm-hmm.
is approximately $25 trillion. So we have to learn from those around us. We have to learn from others. We have to blaming and pointing fingers at others, and we need to take responsibility for our own weaknesses and strengthen our own self. We need to stop pointing and blaming. We don't need to take money. We need to pool our resources. We need to some of the places, right? Rather than having alcohol stores, we could pool our money, rent. If some of our people don't have proper credit, there are those who have proper credit. So the ones who have proper credit, they come together and they could pool their monies together, and we rent or we buy a building. If you can't buy, you rent to start. You have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. So yes, you had to creep or you crawl before you could
Mm-hmm.
walk, right? My grandparents used to say, Even the tortoise can win. Even the tortoise can win. So we have to take our time, but we have to be responsible for our own actions and stop blaming other people or misdoings. We have to take that responsibility. Forget about the banks. If we pool our money together, we form our own credit and form credit unions, form what they call cooperatives and so on. Whether it's agriculture cooperatives, whether it's grocery store cooperatives, whatever, we pool our money together and we can do it. We can do it.
Well, we
Nothing
already
they
have
can do,
the
nothing that they do that we cannot do, or we can do it again. But we have to learn from the mistakes, the fundamental mistakes that we do, that we did, and we have continued to make, because we are not preparing the young people to take over, because we believe in spending, spending, spending. No saving, no savings, no investment. As soon as we get some money, it's about
mhm.
spending, right? Ask most people how much money they have in the bank. Because as soon as we get Nike, we look at the Adidas, we look at all these different brands, and why we can't support none of these brands are Black African American brands. None of those brands. And if they were, and even if they were African American brands, we had to be careful of how we spend, even with buying from our own. Who are they supporting? Are they putting money back into schools? Are they putting back money into credit unions and cooperatives? Are they putting back money to buy to lease and buy land, so we could have, the black farmers could grow food, that we can get cheaper food? We can do it, and we have done it, and we can do it again. But we have to secure our own interests. We have to secure our own interests. They're not going to secure your interest for you.
And I think you're 1,000% correct, Sekou. And I also think it's important that we embrace our culture and support our culture and celebrate our culture, because that's what's been taken. That's one of the things that's been taken from us, is our way of life. And through the guise of these big conglomerates who come in and bring their products in and undervalue what's going on in our communities, or in anybody's communities for that matter, here in the United States and abroad, by making everything such a commodity. But if we start to embrace our culture and celebrate our culture more, that will help as well, to help us to understand that we do have something to protect, that we do have something worth protecting, that we do have something worth growing. We have a culture, we have a way of life that needs to be protected and needs to be honored. And so having our festivals and having our celebrations, um, acknowledging those people who have done so much and made so many contributions, um, celebrating our art and our music, and having us to capitalize off of it. And so, with so many things that we do need to be doing, but I do agree with you. Um, we do need to be looking more at doing for self and looking at what we have, because we do, like you said, $1 trillion. We
Six
have a
trillion dollars. $6 trillion.
three, $6 trillion
Yeah.
market that we have, and everyone sees that. Everybody else is looking at that, and everyone else is taking advantage of that. And so we have to see what that really means. But like you said, that's another whole conversation. Spending. I think the credit cards, the plastic cards, people spend, and they don't see that money going out like they did when we had actual cash that we were dealing with more.
Whether you
Uh,
have cash or you have whether you have cash or you have credit card, we are addicted to spending and spending
yeah.
with other people rather than spending with ourselves. That is the problem. It's in the credit card
Hmm.
or with cash. It's the problem of addiction, right? We are addicted to spending money with other people. We are addicted to giving money to other people, right? That is where it is. The heart of the problem is. We spend we spend all our money. 95% of the money we spend is not with our own. Hence the reason that they can afford the money that we spend in our community for over 75 or 80 um 3 or 4 days, 72 hours, while we could only keep the money that we spend, that we work for. And black people work hard. Black people don't care what the people say about black people are lazy. Black people in this country work hard. They can have what they have. Europeans, the capitalist class could not have what they have. The economists could not have what they have. The petty bourgeois class cannot have what they have. We don't have a petty bourgeois class anymore because it's now between the haves and the haves not. So we have to face that reality. Wake up and smell the coffee. Know what time it is. Know what time it is. We need to wake up. The time for playing is done. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. There's no pie in the sky. No Jesus is coming to save us. No Allah is coming to save us. No Jehovah is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves.
That's right. That's right. And this is why you continue to support um, the teachings of Marcus Garvey, while you continue to address the philosophies that were put on the table. And when you read these books, he spells it out in terms of what you need to be doing. In
You talk about culture. You talk about culture. Yes, culture is a very important thing for people. But when you look at things like hip hop, who made the bulk of the money out of hip hop? Not the artist, not the entertainer. The people who made the money out of hip hop. It's people who don't look like the people who created hip hop. The people who own the record labels out of hip hop was the Jewish businessmen,
Mhm.
The Jews. They were the ones who made the most of the money out of hip hop, and still making the most of the money out of hip hop. They're still the ones who make money out of soul. They're the ones who control Hollywood or Hollywood. They're the ones who control the music industry. It's not. You may find one or two people turn up, but we still those people who make money in the industry, right? Like the DDs and all those other people. They don't control the distribution market. They don't control the distribution market. They may control. They may own the the tape. We don't control the. We don't control. We don't own no TV stations. BET is not even owned by African American. BET is not owned by African American. So we don't have no distribution point. We don't own any. So for you to be powerful, for you to be strong, you have to own the distribution network, and that is something we have failed to do. Right? We failed to do. Right? Those people that talk loud, talking loud and saying nothing, right? You have $1 billion now. You have $1 billion now, but you're dependent on somebody who don't look like you, who didn't create, never created one song to distribute. Yes, you might be the producer, but who distributing it? So if you talk too loud and you act a little rude, they're gonna shut you down. Who gonna distribute your music now? Who gonna distribute your sneakers now? Right? When you use your name to put out a sneakers, right? And they give you they make sneakers is made for five.
Okay, we have lost Brother Sekou. I'm sure he's going to come back. But basically, what his message is tonight, in spite of the racial violence that we have experienced in our communities, in spite of the economic sabotage, in spite of the government policies and the social exclusions that we have continued to experience systemically here in this country, we can change this ourselves. We have the power to change this ourselves by taking this $6 trillion economy or spending power that we have and using it to come together. We really don't have a choice. Are you still there, Sekou?
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We got some
I think I need to go out and come back in.
yeah, I think we're having
You hear?
some
Are you
distortion
hearing me?
here.
Okay. Could I go out? Let me go out and come back in, okay? You hear me?
Okay, so we're just at the top of the hour here for ending the
Yeah.
podcast, Brother Sekou, but I appreciate the message and the information that you have uh, given a directive. And this is exactly what we need to be doing. We need to be pooling our resources. We need to be coming together. We need to fix this ourselves.
Well, only we could fix it. No one else can fix it. As I said before, no one is coming to save
Absolutely.
us. No one is coming to save us. To fix it ourselves. We have to practice the philosophy
Absolutely.
of Marcus Garvey. We have to practice the philosophy of Martin Delaney. We have to practice the philosophy of Elijah Muhammad. We have to practice the philosophy of Betty Shabazz. We have to practice, these are the philosophy we have to practice, right? We have to get away from the philosophy of greed, and we have to learn to do for self.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sekou and
You got
family. Remember, support Black businesses. It's time. That's what we need to do. Thank you for coming.
it. Until next time.